You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt McGachy, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Kelly Schaefer of Atheist. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I say that every week because I really mean it. I know there are a lot of podcasts out there, and you choosing to spend your time with me means a lot to me. So thank you very much for that. This week, I'm talking to Henri Cash from Starcrawler. He is a great dude. We had a really fun chat, and Starcrawler is a fantastic band. If you have never listened to them, if you're not familiar, please go get familiar. You're going to like it. It's just good rock and roll, and they put on a crazy show. It's really, really cool. You really, really should check out Starcrawler. But first, you have a podcast to get to. I have just a touch of business to attend to, and then we can dive right into the episode. So, if you're listening to this on the day it drops, there are just a few days left for you to enter to win a Martin 0015. We at Stringjoy are giving one away, and you can enter a few different ways, and they're pretty easy. First of all, you can have an active subscription. So if you're already subscribed to receive your strings every month or whatever interval you have chosen, you're already in. That's great. If you have already purchased this month, this is February 2023, by the way, for those in the future, you are also already entered. And if you would like to get in and you haven't yet, all you got to do is have an active subscription or go buy anything off of our website. You will be automatically entered. And if you have purchased from a dealer, simply email that receipt to contestentry@stringjoy.com. That's contestentry@stringjoy.com. And you will be entered to win the Martin guitar. It's a pretty epic prize. Void where prohibited, of course, and all the details are available on the Stringjoy website. So thank you guys for supporting us. And I think that is enough business for one episode. Let's dive right into this episode with Henri Cash. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar stuff occasionally, sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today, I have Henri Cash from Starcrawler. What's going on, dude?
Hey, how are you doing?
Pretty awesome, to be perfectly honest. It's a good day so far, so I'm happy.
Pretty good.
We were talking about a lot of fun stuff, and I was like, wait a minute, hold on. We should just hit recording and go. So
I was admiring your PV hat.
Yes, thank you. I'm admiring your cowboy hat. That's a very nice hat you got there.
To cover up the greasy hair, man.
I get it. That's why I cut all mine off. I just can't deal with it.
Yeah. It's hard.
It's that rock and roll lifestyle, man. So we were talking about PV, and you. I don't know how much of this we can go into like publicly, because I know we were talking about some stuff.
I mean, I could get in trouble. It's fine. It's whatever. But I went down to PV a couple years ago. It was my brother's birthday. My brother also plays in Starcrawler, but we were on a tour that wasn't Starcrawler, backing up this artist, like an indie artist. And the front of house lady was had a part of the PV family. Her name was Tatiana PV. She was great. Mm-hmm. But it was my brother's birthday, and it was a drive day. I forget between where, but the end date was New Orleans. And we went through Meridian, Mississippi, and stopped at the PV factory for the PV tour, and learned a lot about PV amps. The whole tour was just defending that they weren't actually bad. They're like, our speakers are used at Disneyland. That was their big thing.
Sure.
Like, in Vegas, it's mostly PV speakers. Any casino or anything. But after the tour, they offered to bring us up in a hot air balloon.
Man.
I was too scared.
It's kind of a weird thing, because like, what if it floats? What if it just keeps going?
I feel like there was an accident like the next week I heard, or something. I could be totally making that part up though. So I feel like it was a good vibe that we didn't go. But instead, we went to New Orleans and did an alligator tour instead.
I mean, that could go wrong too, to be honest. Like,
I guess it could, yeah. I didn't think about that.
did you hold a gator?
No, we did one of the ones where you just go through the swamps and they throw marshmallows, which, natural alligator food.
I was thinking the same thing. Try to keep their diet, in line with what they would normally eat.
And they call it swamp crack.
Swamp crack?
On the tour. They're like, yeah, we're going to go out. We got a bag of swamp crack, and the gators love it.
I mean, it's pure calories, right? It's just pure sweet calories. So
they do it different down there.
I've always wanted to do one of those. I was gonna go to New Orleans a couple of years ago, and it got derailed by hurricane season, and that was on the list, was to go do the swamp, fan boat tour thing. So one of these days, that sounds like fun.
But PBs are really cool, and they're underrated.
I agree.
Not just the Decade. Everybody's, hip to the Decade now, but the Decade is not just the only PV amp that should be worth, $600.
I agree. I just got a TNT 100. It's technically a bass amp, and it works pretty good for that, but it sounds great. That 15-inch speaker sounds great for guitar. I'm loving it. Yeah,
I got my friend O, who is super into gear, and he was in this band called Fluff, and now this band called Harsh Mellow, but he has like this great gnarly, like 90s tone, and he just screams about PVs. And so I got this PV Rage that I'm going to cut into a head.
Yeah.
And do a 210 cab, but they sound great. And then my brother, who plays steel, he just picked up, I forget if it was in Nashville or something, something with a 15-inch speaker. And it's just clean and loud, and the reverb actually sounds really good. But
yeah. Most of the guys I know that
underrated,
that built amps and stuff, or build amps, excuse me, they're like, the PV designs from that era are kind of weird, but they work really well. They're just kind of, I don't know. I think our attitude towards it probably came initially from, they were just everywhere growing up. Yeah. Every school had some random PV laying around, and we didn't see any of our guitar heroes playing PVs really. I mean, in Nashville, they were a little more prevalent, but yeah. Except
Leonard Skinner, all the Mississippi Marshall guys,
That's true.
The South used a lot of PVs. I'm into a lot of country music, and, you watch Waylon, anything in the 70s from Texas to Florida was all PV backline.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It does make sense.
And they sounded great. But, yeah. I heard the logo was designed by the guy when he was in high school, and he just doodled the logo, and that was it.
Really?
Yeah.
It's one of those weird logos that, it sounds weird to say it while it's on top of my head here, but it's one of those weird logos that I think we kind of grew up and went, oh, that looks kind of dumb. It's not very classy. Like a Marshall logo, looks really classy. And then it stuck around for so long that it became cool. Now I'm like, I love that logo. I want it everywhere. Get me all the PV logo stuff. I love it so much. So it's kind of weird. This podcast is not brought to you by PV, despite what it sounds like from this intro.
It's a terrible logo, but I do like it.
But there's it's stuck around long enough, I think there's something to be said for that.
Yeah. The cool thing about my brother's PV he just picked up, and it's the Session 400, now that I remember, but it doesn't have the logo on it. So it actually looks cool.
Is it like a block letter version or something?
It just doesn't have the logo on the front, and it has the white sides, and, it has silver knobs on the front.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it looks really cool, actually.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
But yeah.
Well, I think that's enough about PV for now. Yeah. Well, I want to talk about you. I know the band, obviously. Starcrawler's really been hitting the last few years, which is really cool.
Thank you.
I think my friend, if I remember correctly, I think I first heard about you guys from Adam from Satellite Amps.
I love Adam.
He's incredible. Yeah, such a good dude. And great amps. Great amps. Got one.
This is just going to be an amp podcast.
There it is.
Yeah.
For the viewers, it's right there. Yeah, fantastic. So I think that was my first introduction. I don't know if he posted about you or if he told me about you or what it was, but immediately went to look up the band and I was just like, you guys not only like have a great sound, but the stage show is wild.
Thank you.
It's so great. And I think that probably is what attracts a lot of people to the band is when they see you guys for the first time. It's pretty rare to see people performing the way you guys do. How did this band form? What's the story there?
I met Arrow, who's the singer, in high school, and we hit it off. And I really wanted to drop out of high school, and she didn't want to have to go to college, and she was a year above me. We didn't know each other in school, but she came up to me because I was wearing a Cramp shirt.
Okay.
And thought, you look cool. Do you play guitar? Because I see you wearing band shirts and stuff. And so we hit it off, and we started jamming, and we just had our hearts set on, if we get really good, we could go on tour and leave school and maybe do this.
Mm-hmm.
And so just every day after school, I was like 15 when we started, and she was 16. Every day after school, we'd go to her grandma's house and rehearse. And then write songs and stuff, and then continued into what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
But we just got really lucky. And at the time in LA, there was a lot of kind of shoegazy stuff going on where, there was a lot of hipsters staring at their pedals and nobody was really putting on a show.
Mm-hmm.
And so we wanted to just be something that was memorable. And all of our favorite bands, like the Cramps being one of them, put on a show, and it was shocking kind of, and that's what we wanted to do. And
yeah.
I guess it worked so far.
It did. It did. So did you end up dropping out and just hitting it full time?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I got to the point where, my parents didn't want me to drop out, so
sure,
I had to have really good tour dates down. But thanks to Dave Grohl for Cal Jam, that was like the first one that really started up the touring and allowed me to drop out. So,
that's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to drop out too. But not to go on tour. I've said this on the podcast many times, and it's weird because I'm just talking about it today with my wife. But like, I love music, love writing, love recording. Yeah. I'm obsessed with all that stuff. But the one thing I knew I could never be in a touring band for one major reason, and that is because I, with every fiber of my being, hate road trips.
Really?
I hate them. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I feel a little bit alone in that at times because everyone's like, yeah, road trip. And I'm just like, for me, I'm like, everything that people talk about being good on a road trip, it's a distraction from the road trip. It's like, oh, the snacks, the tunes, the chat.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can have snacks and tune and chat without being stuck in a tin can,
Yeah.
So I have this very pessimistic attitude towards driving for long distances, but also because of that, I have like a great admiration for people who are able to do it because I love it. I can't do it.
Yeah. I love driving the van too.
Do you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Me and the bass
night?
player. Oh yeah. After the show, we get 6 or 7 hours in. We did a live record at Third Man Records in Nashville on Devil's Night in Detroit and Halloween. And we drove right after the show in Detroit on Devil's Night straight to Nashville to the sound check the next morning.
Dude.
And still managed to do that show on no sleep.
I'm not built for it. I'm not built for it. I gotta sleep. I sleep so much. I sleep.
Yeah, it's good for you.
Yeah,
sleep is great for you.
But so is rock and roll. So
that's debatable.
It's good for the listeners.
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah. That Third Man, that's such a cool spot. I've never gotten to see a show there, but I've been there quite a few times. Nashville's kind of my home away from home. So
yeah, we got to cut direct to acetate, which is an amazing experience.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Was Jack there?
Not at that one. No, not that I know of.
He's kind of an enigma. Like I think everyone goes there thinking that he's going to be like hanging out in the halls, and I don't think he usually is. He's hiding somewhere.
I think He is sometimes. I know he's there a lot, but
Hmm.
I think he was on tour or something, or
Yeah.
who knows.
So taking a few steps back, obviously I shared your pink pedal boards the other
Oh,
day
yeah.
because they were just, it was Valentine's Day time, and I thought this is perfect, and also it looks incredible. What has the pink rig always been a thing with you, or is that more recent?
No, yeah, it's this new record. We came out with a new record last year, and the whole thing was everything was pink.
Mm-hmm.
And so we painted all of our amps pink, got our guitars pink, and then my pedal board was just, all these different colors. And we did some shows with Jack White, and my tech said, his board is blue.
Right.
So you're really there. Because it was like all of our pink stuff against all his blue stuff. And it was like, you're losing.
Right.
And
you need to do something about this.
Yeah, and so I just took all the pedals apart and painted them pink. And yeah. Still got more to do. Yeah, got to do the other guys' pedal boards now. But
oh man, you're the only one. Yep.
Yeah,
you got to round them up.
Yeah, we did mic stands, cables. I mean, at this point, it just drives me crazy when one thing isn't right.
Well, I mean, it's part of the show, right?
Yeah.
So
I always liked dollhouses. So
dollhouses, interesting.
Yeah, as a kid, they just catch your eye.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to bring that into the live show.
I like that. That's really cool. I did have a question, and I wasn't the only one. Both boards had two tuners. What's the story there?
So I run 2 amps. I run a Vox and a Fender, and I use the tuners as kill switches for each amp.
Okay.
So one of the Vox amp gets no pedals except for a tuner. So it goes into this Lely switch box that's kind of like a DI for sense, and it goes to the tuner and then back to the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And so that amp only gets a tuner. And so for certain parts of the songs, I'll hit the tuner and just have the Fender on for a second. And then I'll hit the tuner and then have the Vox on, or vice versa with the Fender.
Got it.
And so we have a bunch of songs on the new record where I'll do a verse with just the Vox, and then I'll have like the big muff sound on the Fender amp. And then I'll click that on for the chorus, and all of a sudden it's like giant.
Got it. It all makes sense now. I knew there was a reason. A lot of people were like, well, at least he'll never be out of tune. I'm like, I'm sure that it's not for tuning.
The crazy thing about it is that the tuners never show the same thing.
Oh, right. Yeah, I believe
They're
that.
the same tuner.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
That's one thing.
Not that I ever tuned to begin with.
Well, that's overrated.
Yeah.
What do you need that for? That's what distortion's for.
That's what I got a snark for.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, the that's one thing about pedals in general that I think a lot of people don't think about is like there's just, even in the exact same model, there's going to be some small variations. It's just going to happen. So a lot of people, I've seen them have like a big rig with everything synced up to tempo, and they're like, no, it's perfectly in sync. I'm like, it's not perfectly in sync. It's close, and it's close enough.
Yeah.
But I think some people have a misconception that it is actually all just perfect. And there's always going to be some variation because of how different brands integrate tap tempo, there's different ways of doing the same thing. So yeah, but random aside.
Also just having one signal that goes through all those pedals, what that does to your signal. Because I have the box up at the top is made by this Uniform Music guy, this guy Eric, who's an amazing guitar tech.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a switch that says O on it where I could bypass all the pedals if something's up.
Oh yeah.
And when you bypass all the pedals on the Fender amp, the amp sounds different because you're not going through all those pedals.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I kind of wanted the Vox to have no pedals, so that I have that straight in sound going at the same time while, one amp gets all the funky stuff.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's all true bypass, all of those cables, or excuse me, all of those pedals have a little cable in them, and that capacitance will build up if you have a big board.
Yeah,
or
no matter what cable you're using, the Mogami, Gold Shield, whatever,
it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So we're going through the rig, so let's go ahead and keep going. You're obviously a Gretsch man.
Oh yeah.
Has that always been a thing, or is that a more recent development?
I've been a Gretsch guy for like 4 years now. Ever since I got one, I've always been into them. I love Neil Young and Poison Ivy. Brian Setzer is a huge, guy for me. And AC/DC was a huge one. And I always grew up just liking the way they looked. I was a Telly guy for a long time. I still love Tellys. But everybody always told me, you should play Les Paul because the Telly's too bright or whatever. And it doesn't sit in the mix as well as if you played Les Paul, but I'm not a Les Paul guy. I just didn't want to play something that everybody else played. And the Filtertron pickup is kind of the best of both worlds because it does the bright, twangy thing that a Telly pickup does, but it also is a humbucking pickup. And so it has a little bit more of the bottom end.
Yeah.
And so it just sat in the mix perfectly for
cool.
what we do.
That's one of the holes I have to fill. Some people will get like a lot of the same guitar, and I'm a little bit backwards from that. I do have a few, like I have a few Les Pauls, for example, but I usually try to find something that I don't have. Like I'm never really lusting for the same thing over and over again. And a Gretsch has been high on the list for a long time for that exact reason. The Filtertrons are like this crazy unique like design that I think is a little bit underrated in my book. I
think it's so underrated. And the one I'm using is this TV Jones Powertron Plus, I think.
So good. Those things are incredible. Yes.
He designed for Billy Gibbons to be kind of the in-between of a Les Paul and Filtertron. So it's really amped up and loud, which I really like. But the problem was once I started using it and I'd switch back to a Telly, I just feel the loss of frequencies. And so all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, now I need to have everything be the same pickup kind of thing. And so that's kind of what I did, except there was this guy in Athens, Georgia, who built me this insane guitar. He hit me up on Instagram. His name is Dylan Keel, and he hit me up on Instagram saying, I want to build you a guitar. And I sent him a picture of this K I had when I was a kid, and I sent him a drawing of like a 3 pickup version, and he built it right here. And it's the only guitar that I use in the set that's not a Filtertron. And
let's take a look at that thing. What do we got? Oh, that's awesome.
It's so cool, and he really nailed it. And these are Curtis Novak pickups. And when I first got it back, I couldn't play it against the Filtertrons because they weren't hot enough. And so I brought it to Curtis, and he wired these. He said it's the hottest he's ever wired D. Armand style pickup.
That's so cool.
It sounds so good. And it's got the 5-way switch between the 3 and a big old neck on it. And so that's beautiful. Another favorite. But yeah,
that's super cool. I don't think I've seen that one yet. I'm very happy to. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, and I use it on a couple more kind of softer songs, but because it's more clear. But it's still loud and full, but it's just clear, which I like.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a guitar on the way. It's one of those things. I've done this once before. Actually, I got this idea from Adam at Satellite, where I've ordered a couple custom guitars. One I like spec'd out, like, make it this color, do like everything. And that's great. And I love it.
Yeah.
But what's more fun is if you get a builder that you really trust and just be like, pick a couple things. Like, so like with my millimetric, I was like, I want this body shape, this scale length. And then I like kind of bigger necks, and surprise me with everything else.
Yeah.
And that's like as close to like Christmas morning Santa Claus as you can get as an adult, because you don't know what's coming, and you're letting these people who are they're artists in their own right, just create, just make. And so I've got one on the way from B.A. Ferguson, and all he's told me is that he's got a Japanese gold foil in it, and that's the only thing I know about it.
Wow.
So I have no idea what this thing's going to look like when it shows up, but it's getting close.
Yeah,
So
that's the main guitars that I play. These, as I grab again, these bats, which are made by Randy Parsons, who made Gretches for Jack White.
oh wow.
But we're working on something with Gretsch for these guys, which I don't know how much more I can say about it, but
Ooh.
they were sort of like that at first. When I first got mine, I told them, I wanted a TV Jones and 3 strings, and there wasn't much. It was all a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
And then, since I've been using them, we worked on certain things that I like. He put an MXR booster in the first one.
Oh, cool.
And the MXR was cool, but it wasn't the exact thing I was going for. And so my other friend, Chris from DJ Lava Lamp R2R Electric, who makes treble boosters.
Yep.
He had an old Gretsch treble booster that was in Jet at some point. In the 60s, I guess they did that.
Huh.
And so he kind of came up with the idea of putting a treble booster in one, because I use treble boosters on my board all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I have one of his pedals in each one of these guitars. So it's just pick up, volume, and then the volume of the booster, and then just a foot switch for the booster.
Oh man, that's so cool.
And it's just like simple and Bixby, and it's amazing. And so that's what I'm used to now. But Randy always surprises me, and he's an amazing artist. And so it's like that. You get surprised, and then you find yourself in a perfect zone where you wouldn't have been without the luthier.
Yep. The only bad part is like I always try to emphasize that it's somebody that you trust, because unfortunately this business definitely has some folks that
definitely
aren't as good as others. Let's just put it that way. So you don't want a bad surprise. You want it to be with somebody that has a good reputation.
And even with some of the stuff Randy's built me, I've changed some things. Like if something's not working for me, I just change it. Mm-hmm. And you can always change things later if something's not exactly feels right or something.
Mm-hmm.
But
definitely. So you pretty much play all quote unquote standard scale length guitars? Do you have any baritones or anything like that?
I use the drops for lower tunings.
Did you take drops?
I do, yeah. And so that's what the drops on there. During the set, we'll tune it down. So I use 3-string guitars for half the set, and 6-string guitars. So I travel mainly with 4. Mm-hmm. 2 3-strings in case I break a string, 2 6-strings in case I break a string or break a headstock or whatever. And so I don't have room for any more guitars.
I'm glad you brought up the 3-string thing. I forgot I was going to ask you about that. What's the deal with the 3 strings? Why'd you start doing that?
Because I don't want to think as much. And when I started playing in Starcrawler, I didn't even want to be a guitar player.
Oh.
I was a drummer, bass player. My dad plays guitar. And so when I was really young, I wanted to play guitar because Johnny Ramone and Angus Young and Jack White. But then I live in Pasadena. That's where I grew up, home of Van Halen. And I just knew I could never be a shredder.
Okay.
It's like, I can't be a shredder. I'm not Eddie Van Halen. That's what Pasadena's known for. I should pick up something else.
Oh.
So I played bass, I played drums, and, I really love still playing drums and bass. But when Arrow hit me up, she said, "Do you play guitar?" I said, I guess, yeah. and my dad always played in open tunings. And then I broke the nut on one of my Epiphones and then just took half the strings off because I realized, also there were bands like Morphine and Presidents of the United States that I loved that, didn't have all the strings. Morphine had 2-string slide bass. Presidents had a 3-string guitar and a 2-string bass. And so I was aware of that kind of stuff, and it was like, oh wow, this is a lot easier. I can get different things and not have to do as much. And, the top strings aren't ringing out or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it started. And then when we started writing songs, I just wrote a bunch of songs with that because it was fun and I wasn't thinking. And when you're not thinking, it allows you to, move freely.
Mm-hmm.
But
do you keep them in what would be standard tuning if they were 6 strings? Are they in a open, or what are they like?
They're just a chord, so it's G, D, G.
Okay.
And then some of them are A sharp, F, A sharp. And when I originally started, it was D, A, D.
Mm-hmm.
But then I had all the tension on one side of the neck of this guitar. My dad was like, "You're gonna fuck up this guitar. You got to move those strings to the middle of the neck." And so I did, and I tuned it to G, which is basically the Keith Richards thing minus the 2 top strings.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, 3 strings in the middle. Interesting. Yeah. Now I'm looking at a guitar right now, like, I'm gonna try that. Yeah. That sounds like fun.
I mean, it's really fun. I don't just put my finger down either. I'm playing. You find chord voicings, and you could stretch out your fingers and get really weird stuff that you wouldn't normally go for.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all sits in a really nice range too. Sonically speaking, it's all in the middle. Because you don't have the low lows and the high highs. So with bass and vocal, it sits really well.
Yeah. Does anybody else in the band discard strings, or are you the only one doing that?
I'm the only one doing that. I mean, my brother on pedal steel has like 10 strings, and he
got some extra ones for you. Yeah.
Yeah, he got all the ones that I discarded.
Pedal steel's been coming up a lot lately on this show, and pedal steel, yeah. Just this last episode, I interviewed Brian Poston. He's in a band called the Shootouts, who, since you like country, you should definitely check them out. He's a ripper, like such a good guitar player. But yeah, he was talking about playing pedal steel, and pedal steel is one of my very favorite sounding instruments ever. Mm-hmm. But I'm so intimidated by it. Like, I'm like, I should try it. I don't know.
Yeah, me and my brother bought one together in the hopes that we would both, learn how to play it, since we both love the instrument. I had about a week and a half till I said,
right.
I mean, because you're looking at pedals, knee levers, volume pedal, and then your hands, and then it's, you're alternate picking, and, you're doing bends. But I like playing lap steel in the style of pedal steel, bending behind the bar.
Yep.
I could get down with that, but pedals and knee levers, I'm out.
Yeah, I just don't know if I'm quite coordinated enough for that. I have a hard time walking and chewing gum at the same time, so,
Yeah, pedal steel players are, I feel like, the most likely to kill people.
Oh, okay. Why is that?
Because they're crazy, man. I forget what the actual phrase I heard somebody say once, that pedal steels are the most likely. I don't know. They're because they sit down all day long and they're just doing this, and it's really, they spend their whole day doing that.
Yeah.
You can't not do that and be a good pedal steel player.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of worried about.
It requires the most work.
It's an insane amount of work.
My brother's at home playing pedal steel.
But not killing people, hopefully.
You never know.
I mean, he's the most likely one to do it. Yeah.
Well, I'm saying one day there might be a break, some Ralph Mooney doesn't go right. There's flips a switch.
Yeah, you're right.
It's a crazy hard instrument, and it's so frustrating. Because also then intonation, it's like a fretless, and not everything is right on the fret. Basically,
right.
It's like upright bass. When you play upright bass, it kind of moves around the intonation. It's not, everything isn't on the same post. Like the note might be here on this string, but on this string it's a little bit more up, and just figuring all that out on 10 strings is a nightmare.
Yeah. While finger picking, which is something else that I'm terrible at. So
finger picking, and then doing, grace volume, like super light footed, and then both knees. And not for me. But boy, is it a pretty sounding instrument. One of my favorite sounds ever.
Ever. Every time I hear it done well, I get like goosebumps. I just absolutely love it so much, which makes me even more hesitant to try it because I'm like, I'll make it sound like a dying cat and not in a good way.
Yeah. I could figure out a couple things, you know. But yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I hear you.
Hi, I'm Vincent, and I'm here to talk about the Mercury X. My dad's always going on and on about how cool Maris is. He really went off on one about the Mercury X the other day. He said something about a 4,800 hertz sample rate and 99 preset locations and 33 banks, and something along the lines of the most advanced reverb pedal ever devised by man? That's all true, but I only care about one thing. This pedal sounds sick. So make sure you check out the Mercury X and all the other fine products at maris.us, as well as fine retailers worldwide. All right, Dad, now can I have my Pocky?
How exactly do artists get their music on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, all these services? How in the world do you get your music there? Well, in the past, you had to use something called a record label. But these days, you can use DistroKid. DistroKid is the absolute easiest way to get your music up on streaming services. And it's the most affordable way to do so. Not only do plans start at $22.99 for the entire year, that's less than $2 a month, DistroKid also does not take a cut of your streaming revenue, unlike some other services out there. Even better if you sign up by going to tonemob.com/distrokid. That's tonemob.com/distrokid. One more time, that's tonemob.com/distrokid. You'll get 30% off. That's right, 30% off their already extremely reasonable prices. So go to tonemob.com/distrokid and get your music out there. Well, since we're kind of down the pedal steel train, you mentioned that you love country music, which is, I don't know, probably not super apparent upon first listen to Starcrawler, but following you and like kind of being aware of that's, you know, the Gretches, being aware of your other interests is not too surprising to me. But like, when you say country music, who are you referring to? You mentioned Waylon, which is, you know, GOAT, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, I love, probably some of my favorite is the Buck Owens era stuff. Merle Haggard. And then, you know, you go into the Waylon. I really love Fair & Young. It keeps going. Charlie Pride. Just those records sound great, and there's some great players on there. And I think I love punk rock, and I hear a lot of that in country. And I grew up. My dad was still is a blues guitar player, and so I listened to a lot of blues. And I hear it's just all kind of the same thing. Just, you know, little, tiny different voicings. But, you know, you listen to the Ramones, and then you listen to like Johnny Cash, a live recording, and there's the same energy in it, weirdly. Especially in those live recordings. And, you know, Hank Williams too. And it was all against the rules, kind of. And people don't realize that today. They think of it all as like cookie cutter, you know, I don't know, like in the lines music, but some of it's just so amazing, and there's such great energy. And I love the murder ballads.
Oh yeah. You gotta have a good murder ballad.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's just funny because, and I think finally the pendulum's swinging the other way a little bit. There for a while, it was almost I had to like clarify when I'm like, I'm a country music fan. I had to be like, but not that, not Florida Georgia Line.
Current.
Yeah. You know, like not that.
Yeah.
And now that's become, I think it's finally breaking. You know, I don't think that's
is.
I don't know. What do you think about it?
It is really hard though, because I love that type of music, and you know, I even love hee haw. I grew up watching that with my mom, the reruns, and but then I went to go see this guy Wheeler Walker Jr. Have you heard of him?
I have, yes.
And me and the bass player Tim went, and my brother, and we went to the Fonda in LA. And we went in, and it was just the most right wing, like crowd, like tweaker meth vibe in the audience. And everybody just looked at us like a saloon, and I just felt like I was going to get my ass kicked just for being there. And I was like, this guy is making fun of that kind of stuff.
Right.
I don't understand. And there was a small group of us there that got that, but there was a lot of people that didn't get the joke and thought it was serious. And I was like, oh, this is not as funny as I thought now that people aren't getting the joke, you know?
That's a really weird one. There's him, and then there's a comedian. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. There's a comedian doing the same idea, making fun of that sort of culture.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like making fun of, like, not making fun of country folk. That's not what I mean. But like, you know what I mean? Like the overly...
No, but they're making fun of like the racist, homophobic countryside, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And they unfortunately, and Wheeler's like part of this too. Like, I don't want to speak for him, obviously, but it seems like he's had to, just for the sake of his career, kind of just like, all right, I guess these people are here too, you know?
Yeah.
Even though they totally don't understand what I'm doing.
Which is crazy. And we played in Bakersfield a couple months ago. Great show. But I knew that this music store out there, Front Porch Music, had Merle Haggard's cattle brand. And I wanted to get my guitar branded.
Yes.
And I posted a video of it, didn't think much of it. And it, has like 10 million views or something. And I love Merle Haggard. I don't think of Merle Haggard as like a right-wing guy, really. He might have been in his later years, but
listen to his last interview he did with Chris Shiflett from the Foo Fighters. It's incredible. And he's not.
But all of the comments, I had to go through comments yesterday and delete like a couple hundred that were just homophobic and racist.
Jeez,
just these people come out of the woodwork and started, because of that one post I did, and started going down and commenting on my other, like, you hippie. Like, I didn't even know people still said that.
I didn't either.
Hippie haters. And I guess I appeal to that. And so that part of country music kind of makes me sad. Because thinking about that and, making music, really liking country music and making that and knowing that that's the fan base is kind of a bummer. But I still love the music, And there's people out there that, love country music like me that aren't like that, There's this band I just heard about called Wednesday from North Carolina, and they make some rad music that's like rock, kind of has a country twang, and they're definitely not that, which I thought was really cool. So it's out there, but there is definitely like a really crazy audience for country music as well. I don't know.
It spans a lot of area,
There's a lot of hate in there, but there's also a lot of hate in rock music too.
I was going to say, I don't think it's limited to that.
It's not limited, yeah.
I think it crosses genres. Even, you can even view things, and I mean, I don't even want to name a genre. You can literally pick problems out of every single audience. It just is.
Yeah, I mean, really, what I think music and people that create amazing music, it's all weirdos, And I think that's the cool thing about it, is you could be weird and express yourself and make something and identify and find other weirdos who are into the same stuff as you, and who aren't I don't know, don't want to be doctors or whatever, or maybe you do want to be a doctor, but you also want to be play music, which is cool too. But for people that kind of did the schooling system and just felt like none of it was really for them, I don't know, it's kind of for that.
Yeah, it's a weird community to be a part of, like, because I was definitely like more of a blue collar guy for most of my life, and I just never really wanted to do that stuff. But I also, like, as I mentioned before, like, I don't really want to tour. I don't really want to live that life. But I'm so addicted to all of this stuff. I just had to weasel my way in somehow. And I've just kind of carved my own little path. And I'm like, yeah, we are all really weird. Like, varying degrees of weird and different kinds of weird. But we're all really weird.
We're all really weird. And I think, listening to music and finding bands that, play something that you identify with saves people's lives.
Oh,
that we don't really think about.
100%.
I mean, if I was, back in, say, middle school and I didn't have all the music, if I wasn't currently inspired by all that and driven to do something like that, I don't know where I would be,
I don't know. It's hard to even imagine what my life would have been like without being so obsessed with so many different bands and artists.
I know.
And I realized, and I've mentioned this on the podcast before, that for a lot of people, it's background, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
The place I used to work played the country music radio station all day. But obviously, I hated that with a passion because at the time it was just like Florida Georgia Line. Yeah, like I'm just like, oh. And at one point, I've told this story so many times, but not to you. I stood up and I was like, I've only been here for 6 hours, and I have heard this song, whatever one it was. I noted it down on a piece of paper. I've heard this 6 times, and I haven't even been in the office all day. Like, I've been in and out. But the time that I have been here, I've heard this same song 6 times. And the guys that were in there all day, they're like, oh, I didn't notice. And I'm like, how do you not notice? Like, to me, it's just like, I can't ignore it. If I go into a grocery store, I'm almost hearing what's playing over the speaker more than I'm seeing what's in front of me.
Yeah.
And I guess that's just the weird wiring in my brain. But realizing that most people aren't that way, it was hard for me to understand. Really hard for me to get.
But I mean, and it's the same way with rock radio. You're listening to rock radio, driving for 8 hours, and I heard "Stairway to Heaven" 4 times, and it's it's the same over and over again. You're like, can't they? There's so many new bands out there. You'd think that they could play something else, but no. But
as long as most people don't care, then they're just going to keep doing that. But also radio, and I actually read an article about this the other day. I'll have to try to dig it up. That really the last kind of bastion of radio mattering was country radio. And even that now, people are just like, wait, why would I listen to the radio? I can listen to anything that I want.
Yeah.
I haven't heard Waylon Jennings in a while. Click. Like, why would I even bother I don't willingly turn the radio on at all. Sometimes it's like on before I connect my phone to my car, and that's like, quick before I hear something on the radio. And it used to be so important. It used to be the most important way to spread your music out there, and now it just doesn't matter at all.
Yeah. It's crazy, but there's always other ways for people to find music. When I was a kid, I found music a lot with the YouTube recommended.
Oh, yeah?
I would, watch live shows from, The Clash, live from 70, 7 or something.
Mm-hmm.
The Clash and the Ramones, and then, you'd get recommended the Sex Pistols or something, and, you'd go down that wormhole and then, just keep going. But,
definitely.
Yeah.
So this is a little bit of a segue, but I do like to talk to people like yourself who have kind of carved your own path in the music industry, and you're able to do this for a living, which is a rarity. I do like to talk when I get the chance to talk to people like you. I like to find out, like, how did this work for you, and what advice would you have for somebody who's listening to this thinking like, I want to do that too?
I mean, you have to be hungry. I think that's one of the main things, and you have to put in all the effort and not kind of let anybody tell you can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm not at a point where this isn't like a financially stable thing,
Sure.
We're able to, the cool thing about it is that we're able to go on tour and for it to pay for itself. For a long time, that wasn't possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're every hotel, you're sleeping in beds, 3 people to a bed kind of thing. And then, you get to a point where like, wow, I could have my own bed tonight, which those feel really good to hit those moments. But I mean, I know a lot of people that are, working at, I don't know, a warehouse job that are making more money than me.
Sure.
But I would rather be doing, like, this is what I want to be doing. I wouldn't want to do anything else. So I'm extremely lucky, and I just keep working. I'm not going to, let anybody tell me, cool, you're good. And so I'm here at our studio spot, which is our bass player's dad's basement, which we converted, and we built out these rooms, and I'm here recording, and we work on, commercial stuff, whatever, pays to make to the next thing.
Yeah.
And we just got to keep working, keep finding work, and do things that bring you outside of your comfort zone, so you're not just doing the same thing over and over again. But yeah, you got to be hungry, and you got to find people that are into the same thing as you. I think that's the biggest thing. I think about that a lot. If, Arrow didn't come and find me, I would probably still be, not touring and just playing by myself. And I'd make demos by myself, but really finding other people who are into the same thing as you is the most vital part. So whatever you have to do, going to shows, meeting people, joining whatever program at your school, or, whatever it needs to be, becoming, volunteering at a DIY venue, whatever it takes, just being hungry and searching for that, and then putting your all into your art, really making sure that, you're perfecting, is this the best thing that I could do? Or I always think about, do I want this to exist after I'm here? After I'm gone, do I think this is going to hold up and represent, how I feel right now? And trying to think about that and having a heavier meaning behind everything instead of just, saying, but yeah. I don't know. I also don't know all the answers.
Nobody does. And
nobody does.
If they say they do, they almost certainly don't. So
yeah, I just feel super lucky, and still, we're just trying to write, great rock songs, and that's really the goal. I think tone is just the fun part.
That's right. Tone is the fun part. That's why I just focused on that. I'm like, I can't write songs, so I guess I'll just make noises. Yeah. I don't know.
And I love tone and, nitpicking. Yeah.
Well, I think you said something that's really important there. And I think regardless of if it's music, if it's a business, if it's painting, if it's whatever, any kind of creative, doing YouTube, whatever kind of creative endeavor it is, I think staying hungry and putting in the work and keep doing it. Consistency is the key. Consistency is the number one reason why I'm able to do this.
Because it's also gambling. Like, it's pretty much a gamble that I'm doing this right now. But I also try to invest in stuff that I know. I bought guitars because I know on the road, I could resell that for, a couple grand more than I paid for it. And then when I need money, I do sell that. And that will pay for, the couple months that I'm not on the road. And for the meantime, I'll have that cool guitar. And when I need to sell that, I need to sell it. And that's what it is.
And not to mention the thing that very few artists seem to think about, because we just don't tend to be wired this way, is like, that is literally what you use to make your living. If you start, Henry Cash LLC, that is full blown something you can write off. Like it
100%. And because I'm a self-employed musician, every time I buy an instrument, that's a write-off. But
it is.
And then you don't buy instruments, and you're like, oh my God, how much do I have to pay in taxes?
And you're like, quick, buy a Gretsch.
Yeah, like exactly. And that's a really weird, because it doesn't really make sense. But like, I bought that behind me, a 59 6120. And because,
so
I've seen them sell upwards of like 6 to 10 grand. And I bought it for, for. And so I know, okay, at any time, that was a lot of money. That's the most money I've ever spent on a guitar, but I know anytime I could resell that. So whenever there's a need to sell, I can flip it for at least, $1,000 more quickly and make my money back and add some on top of that.
And you'll have gotten to use it the whole time.
Yeah, and I got to have a 59 in my hand, and record with it. And so things come, things go, but it's a good way to think, I think. And it's fun. So on the road, me and my brother are always searching Craigslist. We save up our per diem and, getting fun little things. But yeah, and it's a really good way. I know a lot of other touring musicians that do the same thing too, that, are buying and reselling now, because the people that buy also are people like, I sell the guitars to a lot of lawyers, doctors and that kind of thing, people that have, an income to buy these instruments. And I'm just in positions where I can find them. Yeah. Being on the road, being in like some small town in Arizona, if you go on Craigslist at 6 a.m. every day, you'll see what was posted at 3 a.m. the night before. And so I've been able to become really lucky that way. And that has honestly made me more money than the music part.
That's all related though. So you couldn't do one without the other. Plus and you have to know what you're looking for. You know?
And some people know stocks and make a bunch of money on stocks. I don't know stocks. I don't know a lot, but I know gear. And so do with what you got.
That's right.
Yeah.
We are brought to you today by Sweetwater, specifically the Gear Exchange. You may have heard about this. This is a place where you can go to buy and sell your used gear. Maybe you got a pedal over there that's just kind of collecting dust. Maybe there's something you've been eyeing from the Sweetwater catalog. Well, right now is a great time to turn that unused gear into something you're actually going to use. Even better, if you sell on the Gear Exchange, you can keep 100% of the sale as long as you choose a Sweetwater gift card as your payout method. That is not too shabby because, let's be honest, most of this buying and selling we do is just to fund new gear purchases, and that is a great way to reach a wide variety of customers and keep 100% in your pocket, or rather on your pedalboard. So go check out the Sweetwater Gear Exchange and turn that unused gear into something that's actually going to help you write that next huge riff.
Hello there. I'd like to introduce you to your new best friend, the Chase Bliss Audio Lossy. Lossy is a collaboration between Chase Bliss and Goodhertz. And it's meant to give you some control over those weird digital artifacts that come with very compressed audio. You're hearing it right now. All the changes that are taking place are strictly coming from my playing dynamics. I'm just interacting with the pedal and letting it do its thing. In some true stereo goodness. If you'd like some more details about Lossy, I'd invite you to head over to chaseblissaudio.com. I think you're going to like what you find.
Well, we are approaching the end of the podcast, and I've got a couple classic questions that I like to ask people before we wrap up. But before I do that, I like to give the guests the opportunity to take the floor and shout out anybody they want to shout out, or plug anything you want to plug, or say anything you want to say. You got a couple thousand people listening right now, so whatever you want to do.
I don't know. I just really, I think it is like we talked about before, just to anybody listening who wants to start a band or wants to put out their songs, just doing it. I think that's really important more than anything.
Definitely.
I mean, more than listening to my music, that could do whatever. But I think more important for everybody doing something for themselves. And also, like I said, I didn't want to play guitar because I didn't think I could be like a shredder. And here I am playing a guitar on a guitar podcast, and I've come to terms with, I'm happy with, I might not be able to shred, but I'm happy with what I can do. And, some people, that are way better than me might not be able to do exactly what I do, and I can't do what they do. Everybody plays to their own, everybody has a unique style when they strum an instrument. And no matter what, no matter if you're, I've had friends of mine come in here that, have only been playing for 6 months, and they're in a punk band and we're recording, and I can't play exactly what they play because there's some rawness in the way they play that's, so electrifying. And they might not be, they might not even know what chords they're playing, but the way it comes back and hits you, it means something. And that's what's more important than, anything technical. And so, not letting anybody tell you you're not good enough or whatever. I can't start a band because I've just got a guitar and I don't know enough yet, and just do it,
Yeah, I barely know what I'm playing half the time. So
exactly,
whatever.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
sounds cool. So
same here.
I'm going to go with it. That's what I'm going to do.
When you stop thinking, you start creating something really special. Because you're not overthinking.
I like it.
Yeah.
That was good. I like that. That was a great way to wrap this thing up. So, all right, classic questions. Here we go. And this is going to be kind of funny because I'll be curious to hear what you think. What is your favorite Boss pedal?
Ooh. Dude, the tuner, man.
You got 4 of them.
It's the best. And the TU3, not the TU2.
Okay. What do you like better about the TU3?
It's more accurate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
It really is.
Yeah. I've
heard I should be hip to the Wazacraft tuner though. I haven't hit the Wazacraft tuner yet.
Yeah, that's gonna be a hard one to paint pink, right? It's like, oh, it's such a nice pedal. You'll do it though.
No, I could do it. Yeah. The hardest ones to paint pink, actually, the memory, whatever those things are that I use, which are amazing because they eliminate a lot of that extra cord cable length thing, and I could trigger. I hook up a bunch of pedals and like I hit one thing and it triggers like the hoof and the shaker, and then I go to the next and it's just the Red Llama.
Yeah,
that's the coolest pedal, and that was the hardest to paint because it's like a computer inside of it, and there's like 3 layers of stuff, and it was so stressful taking it apart and putting it back together because I thought it was definitely not going to work, but it worked.
Hey, that's the Boss ES8, right? Is that what that one is?
Yeah, ES8 and the ES5. Both of them on the inside are insane.
That's so cool. Very cool. All right. Yeah. Here's the final question. This is the one that gets a little dicey. What is your favorite kind of pizza?
Margarita.
Oh, a margarita pizza. Just classic Italian, simple. Yeah. Little basil on there.
I have a pet pig, so I don't eat meat. Just because, they're really smart, and I used to, and then you just look down and they're so intelligent. It's like having a 3-year-old child. And so that kind of ruined pepperoni for me.
Fair enough. I get it.
Margarita is pretty sick, though.
But a margarita pizza is really nice. It's really nice.
But, it's your go-to. It's the least things that could go wrong.
But it's got to be dialed. It's got to be dialed because there's nothing to hide behind there.
That's also the thing that's the only thing about tour that I don't like, because I love the driving, going to places, but I'm always thinking, okay, what's the least possible, risk factor thing I could eat to not get food poisoning?
Yes. Because
that's just the ultimate hell. And our bass player still has it right now. I have COVID right now. I don't know if we mentioned that. But,
we didn't.
So I'm isolating. We just came back off of tour, and then me, the bass player, and my brother all tested positive. So
that's why you said I'm not doing anything for a few days.
Yeah, that's why I got this hat on, because I got greasy ass hair right now, and I feel fine, which is super cool. But I am testing positive.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I had a Nashville trip actually just about a year ago when we were launching the Slice of Pie pizza pedal. I don't know if you saw that or not, but
wait, so that was you?
It was like a collaboration between me and Big Ear Pedals. Yeah.
Rad. I saw my friend O, who got me hip to the PV, posted Ian from the Aquabats with his pizza slice pedal.
Yeah, he picked one.
Cool.
He picked one up like right away, and so he had one. He had one fairly quickly. He's got to have one of the first ones. I'm almost positive.
Yeah,
but
it's amazing.
I was supposed to fly to Nashville for the drop, and we were gonna like film all this stuff, and literally like 2 days before, I started feeling. I wasn't bad. I was just a little snivelly. I was like, I don't know. I'm about to fly on a plane with a bunch of people. I better test. And sure enough,
yeah.
And I did it like 4 times. I was like, please, no, it's a false positive. I'm fine. Nope. It was positive every time. So that got sabotaged. But so I feel your pain. It's kind of weird. Like, I don't want to feel sick. But at the same time, it was like, well, it's weird to feel fine. You know, like, I still have to do this.
I was sick on the first day driving back. We drove back from Kansas City to Los Angeles. And it sucked that first day, but after that I was good. Mm-hmm. Now I just have I'm stuffed up.
Yeah.
Like congested, but I mean, I've had COVID so many times now, and this is the chillest COVID I've had yet. So I'm pretty stoked. I'm just staying home, recording, and sticking to myself, not getting anybody infected.
I hear you. Yeah, we had it in retrospect. We didn't know what it was at the time, but we had it before it was like kind of an official thing, and that was horrible because it was like full strength, like straight from Wuhan coronavirus. It was like it took out me and my whole family for weeks. It was wretched, like worst thing ever. The
sickest I've been in the past couple of years was actually we came back from Korea a few months back, and then I got this crazy like lung infection that we all got.
Whoa.
And I was so sick that me and our friend at house guy were hallucinating in our hotel room.
That was when I had just COVID. Like
gone, and it was, and we weren't testing positive because we were like, we have to have COVID right now, but we didn't. It was something. I think just going to different places, your body isn't immune to all different viruses and stuff. And
there's more than just COVID out there. Yeah. There's lots of stuff you can catch.
Oh yeah, but it was messed up.
Do you remember what you were seeing? I still remember distinctly some of the stuff I was hallucinating. It was bizarre.
Yeah, it was crazy. What were you seeing? I think I was mainly like seeing I thought somebody was trying to break into our hotel room.
Oh, whoa. Yeah, I was seeing like monsters and things that were trying to get me. And then my wife come out because I was in the living room. I was like, you try to stay away from me as much as you can because I'm like horribly sick, and then everybody ended up getting it. But I was sleeping out in the living room sleeping. I wasn't really I was awake the whole time, but she came out to check on me, and I had no idea if she was real. Like I knew it was her, but I was like, am I dreaming? She's like, what is going on? I'm like, are you is that Lynn? Is that you?
It's messed up.
It was bad. I was freaking out. Didn't like it. Do not recommend.
No.
Fever dreams are bad news, and they're no joke.
The worst. Ugh. Yeah, I had like a 102 fever.
Ugh.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Well, I'm glad you're better now. Well, I guess you're kind of sick, but you're not too sick, so that's good.
Yeah, I feel great. I'm congested. I've been testing positive for about 10 days now, and today is the first day where I tested negative.
Oh.
So I'm gonna take another test. Still gonna chill just because I feel congested still, but it's looking up for me.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Well, hey, you want to slide over to Patreon, see what kind of weirdness we can get into?
Yeah, I've never been to Patreon, so.
Well, it's gonna be weird.
Let's check it out.
All right, sounds good. All right, everybody. For Henry, this is Blake, and as always, folks, good luck and good tones. All right, there you have it. There it is. I hope you enjoyed that episode, folks. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I enjoyed the Patreon conversation even more. A bunch of you did respond last week to me saying that the Balkan Brothers Patreon episode was one of the best in recent memory. Well, Henry's is right up there, too. He tells some crazy stories. And if you've ever wanted to get access to that, you can go to patreon.com/tonemob, where for $5 a month, you get extra episodes beamed directly to your ears every single week. There are a ton of back episodes there. And if you want to hear the show after the show, that is where you go do that. And it helps me out immensely, like immensely. So thank you to everyone who is doing that. And if you can't, of course, let's try to beat last year. Last year, this podcast was in the top 5% of podcasts that was shared by its audience in the entire world, at least according to Spotify. And I'd like to see it hit that again. So if you could share this, if you could send a link to your friend, if you could share this with somebody, that would mean the world to me, because that really, truly keeps the show going. If you've ever thought about doing it and it just didn't cross your mind in the right moment, just take a second right now. Just pause whatever it is you're doing just for a moment, copy and paste the link and send it to somebody that you think would enjoy this. It helps so much. I've said before, YouTube's tough, but with podcasts, there is no algorithm. The algorithm is just you folks sharing, and that's what keeps this thing going. So thank you all so much for that, and I will talk to you on the interwebs very, very soon. One last thing before we totally sign off here, I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.
Hey there, I am Johnny Christ from Avenged Sevenfold, and I've got a podcast called Drinks with Johnny you're going to want to check out. I sit down with a bunch of different people from all different walks of life, from professional wrestlers to actors, comedians, fighters, musicians, everything in between. I'm just looking to make some friends and have a good time doing it. So if that sounds like something you're into, go check out Drinks with Johnny, streaming everywhere now.
Hey, this is Aaron from No Simple Road. I'm inviting you to come hang out with Apple, Mel, and I as we talk with the musicians, artists, chefs, authors, and beyond from the world that turns us on. We're reaching into the improvisational music scene, the psychedelic culture, the festival world, and getting to know what makes the people tick that create those scenes. Come join us on the long, strange trip over at No Simple Road.